Hi everyone and welcome to another Pick a Card reading. For today we have a special subject, taking a look at how this autumn 2021 is going to play out in your life. And of course this was inspired by the very recent autumn equinox that took place on the 22nd of September 2021. Like every equinox, every year, this is the moment when the cycle of the summer ends and the new cycle of the autumn is beginning. So basically it takes a look at how the karmic influences can influence your life in the next 3 months. Now before I begin, I would just like to say the astrology of this autumn is not very rose tinted. It is very tough. Now, of course, individually it doesn't have to be that way, because if we play our cards correctly, we can get a lot of personal empowerment from the chaos, basically. The main theme of this autumn, if I have to use just one sentence, is chaotic creation. But that also means that on the world stage, on a 3D level especially, well, it's not gonna be a pretty sight. So I just wanna say this for all of us to be aware that regardless of what the cards show personally, it can be the best thing possible. It can even be like your wish come true. Just know that in the world, in external reality, so to speak, well, it's gonna be pretty tough. So the instructions are simple as always. Just take a look at the 4 pumpkins for a couple of seconds, or as long as you need to, then choose the one which appeals to your intuitive senses the most. Timestamps for the interpretations can be found in the description of this video and also in the comment section below. Thank you so much for being here and listening, and now let's get to the reading. Hello everyone who has chosen the first pumpkin. Your cards are the 2 of Swords, the 9 of Wands, the Devil reversed, and the 4 of Pentacles. Now the combination of these cards do suggest that this is gonna be a very intense and quite important autumn for you, because as the 2 of Swords suggests, not only are you going to make some very important choices and decisions, but also you have certain decisions and choices that you have made maybe 2 months ago that you really need to implement, to work on, to make sure that it's like a very active and integrate part of your life. But it is as you implement those decisions, those choices, as you work towards your goals, is when you're going to be facing yet other choices, other decisions. Some of them are related to the ones you made in the recent past, while others will require you to take a new approach to things, to go back to the drawing board and find a new modus operandi, so to speak. So it's not really like a new path, but rather that which you have already chosen, a new approach, a new way of execution, a new strategy, and quite possibly with the 2 of Swords, new alliances and determination of existing ones. This can very well influence either your closest relationships, like a marriage, like a partnership, like a business alliance, but for other people it can have much to do with your career, or if you have your own business or do like a project type work, or if you are a freelancer, then it will really affect your material life and basically the business itself. And also the big karmic theme, the big karmic purpose, if this makes sense, for this autumn is for you to achieve a greater sense of independence, a greater sense of freedom, where you actually have to be the king of your own castle in a much greater expression than you are in the present moment, especially for events which will take place in the spring next year. Now, this purpose in itself might not be anything new. You might be feeling this very, very strongly and intensely. For example, like you really don't want to depend on your existing connections anymore, on your existing partnerships. Of course, not in a very dramatic sense, but they're so very uncertain. If this speaks about your business or your project, or if you're a freelancer, well, it is your partners or those people who you maybe collaborate with, who you deal with, who are basically not as reliable as you need it to be. And there's nothing bad in this because it's not their fault, but that doesn't really help you in any way. You need something a little bit more reliable. And the big truth that you have discovered all throughout this summer was that the only person you can truly count on is yourself. So you really need to have a much greater power over your life, over your businesses, and everything that has to do with your material life. And if it's partnership, this is where you really don't want to rely as much as you do on your partner. Even if your partner wants to be there, wants to help you with everything, this is something that you have to do for yourself. This is how you feel like you are in a position of equality. This is how you feel like, as in simply said, this has a lot to do with your healthy sense of self-worth. You cannot accept the situation to be different any longer. While for other people, you just need freedom from this relationship. It's not like you want to terminate this relationship. It's more like you really don't want it to condition you in any way. When you want to go somewhere, when you want to do something that is important for you personally, or when you have a calling to simply take some kind of action, you really don't want this to limit you, to suffocate you, to give infinite number of explanations. You don't want to feel like you're threading on glass or like a trail of hot cinders. But one way or another, this, if it's a partnership, if it's a marriage, this has a lot to do with either shared finances or the home, the accommodation. So decisions and choices will await you in that area. Now, of course, this 9 of Wands suggests that it's not gonna be easy, especially that in the first part of autumn, so the month of September, maybe even going to the first week of October, the decisions and choices are definitely not gonna be clear. There is a little bit of confusion, there is a bit of mental stagnation, if this makes sense, because you know what you want, you know what you desire, your purpose and everything is crystal clear to you, but you just cannot find the right balance, the appropriate means. Of course, this also depends on certain connections, communication with other people, so you also need to speak about it, you also need to negotiate, if that makes sense. So in the first part, these things won't come easily to you, so you will kind of feel like not sure how you're gonna do it. If you need something to help you implement your plans, there won't be anything visibly there yet. You won't really have anything to choose from yet, if this makes sense. There might be just promises which are not gonna be followed up straight away. So the first part of this autumn is a little bit confusing. It's like a stagnation, so to speak. So you will have to basically carry your cross, carry your burdens, carry all these thoughts and your desires which you're already working on without a lot of possibility of progress. So it means that you will just have to work with what you have. But if you never ever, even for a second, surrender your goal, if at this time, at least regarding, your sovereign will, you are not making compromises, you're not surrendering your will, what you want to achieve, what you're working for anyone or anything else. The Nine of Wands in strength, great strength in opposition, so that means there is going to be a lot of opposition. This may be opposition from other people, opposition from external reality, as in the global economic situation, the legislative uncertainty, the not so favorable environment for your business, if that is your case, your situation, or if it's like a partnership, it can be a lot of unwanted advice and other people just trying to guide you, and even if they're good intended, it's not their business ultimately, so it won't be helpful. And also this Nine of Wands says that trust your instinct, trust your gut, trust your purpose, and don't allow anyone or anything to divert you off your course, because that is actually what you have to show the universe, that you're very serious about this and there is no place for compromises anymore. You want your freedom and you want your power back. And where this is leading you, well, it's actually drawing those choices which you will desperately need, and the ones you won't have in the beginning of the autumn, into your life, when there won't be a choice offered to you by a person, someone who promised you something, for example, or by the karmic forces, then that strength of yours, your resourcefulness, will just create it. Just go back to the introduction of this reading when I said creative chaos. Well, that is what you're gonna be doing. You're gonna be so very determined in your purpose that if something doesn't come your way, you're just gonna create it one way or another. And this Devil reverse is really, really good, because it means that moment of freedom. It means that it's gonna be your way, the way you envisaged it, the way you desired it, cords being cut of everyone or everything that doesn't serve you. If it's like a partnership, it means a partner loosening their control, loosening their dominance, if this makes sense, giving you the space and the freedom that you need, because otherwise obviously they will lose you. So it's not much of a choice. But where this is guiding you is the Four of Pentacles. A very healthy sense of self-worth, empowerment, not allowing anyone or anything to have power over you, your choices, your decisions, and the way you want to live your life. And this goes for everyone. If it's a relationship, then in that sense. But if it's a business, it means that you're in control, you have the steering wheel, and you have that even financial and material independence that you so much desired. This doesn't mean like luxury, this doesn't mean like endless prosperity and abundance, but this means that your needs are gonna be met. Exactly because you held on, exactly because you exercited that great strength in opposition, because you followed your way and you made those choices, those decisions that you took 2 months ago. Basically, you made them real, if this makes sense, because even when things were against you, even when, as I said, you had to go back to the drawing board and find a new modus operandi, find a new mean to execute those plans, the sheer fact of not giving up and accepting to go back to square one when the situation demanded it, well, that just showed how serious you are. So reality, with everything in it, has to give way to your desire, to your will, that which you worked on. And if it's a business, well, that Four of Coins is the best possible sign, because it means that what you touch is going to turn into gold. And that means a much greater financial security for the next 4 months, which are going to be very turbulent and chaotic on the external. And if it's a relationship, well, it either means that you are solo but more than happy with it, or it means a true sense of balance when both you and your partner are living a very balanced and mutually supportive relationship both materially and at the same time psychologically as well. So generally speaking, this autumn is going to be really, really intense. It will feel like a massive fight. It will need a lot of energy and determination, but at the same time, it will be so very worth it because either symbolically speaking or quite literally, the chains of slavery or domination or compromises are definitely falling off you, and you will get into the situation where you are gonna be the king of your own castle as you intended to, as you set out this purpose 2 months ago. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for listening. Wish you a blessed and empowering autumn. Until next time, bye for now. Hello everyone who has chosen the second pumpkin. Your cards are the Hermit, the Nine of Coins, the Six of Cups reversed, and the World card. Now for you guys, without a shadow of doubt, this is going to be a really heavily karmic autumn, and quite in the positive sense. Now before all, I would just like to say that for you guys, autumn and autumn equinoxes in general are very important times of the year, because that is when something impactful happens in your life, and throughout your life there were a couple of autumns where your life truly changed, and those are definitely in your memory. And the big life changes that happened in those very memorable autumns in your life, well, for some of you was either where a big career of yours ended and you began something else. And even though this may sound very okay and positive, it was very hard for you. For others, it was when you separated from a long-term partner, you ended a long-term relationship, you moved like cities, even countries for some people. So that was always for you a very heavy karmic energy where something ended, and very many times that ending really depended on you. When you held out to the very last minute and then you had to make the inevitable choice, but at the same time something else started simultaneously. And perhaps that was the reason why these autumn periods in your life, the very memorable ones, were so very hard, because you couldn't end or change something until the replacement, regardless in which sense, came into your life. So autumn is always the time when that happens. So this autumn is gonna be the same pretty much. And it might have a lot to do with your life purpose or your financial situation. Or for other people, it might even be your career in general. So the Hermit opens this reading, and that speaks about a couple of different things. First of all, you have been asking the universe ever since 2019 to show you the path, to show you what is meant for you, what is right for you. There were a lot of moments when basically you really had no idea what to do, how to do it, when to do it, in which way. And you surrendered. You said, well, I have to admit that I just don't know the details. I just can't possibly figure this one out. So help me. Your intelligence is infinite compared to mine. So just show me the way. And it kind of did, but it was just like a trail of breadcrumbs, where one small step at a time, but it was very, very continuous. Exactly in those moments when you thought, this is it, I'm totally lost, I don't know what to do, the other breadcrumb appeared, and you took it and you followed it, and this kept on and on and on. And perhaps this September, the end of September, or maybe the very beginning of October, is when you find a large chunk of bread, if this makes sense. When instead of the breadcrumb that you might be already expecting, surprisingly you find a larger chunk of bread, which will keep you going for a longer time. But it's not just as simple to keep you going, but until that large chunk of bread, symbolically to be understood of course, is consumed by you, you will find yourself that a lot of things have aligned, that your life is already pretty stable in the innovative sense, so where exactly the universe was guiding you towards. And even though this might not necessarily happen immediately, this is the theme of the next 9 months of your life. That is exactly why I'm saying a large chunk of bread, because you won't have any fears, you won't have any uncertainties. Something will reach you that will support you for the long term. This can be source of income, money, like a person, or a job, or a community, something which won't be seen or felt or interpreted by you as just a breadcrumb, just barely enough to keep you going to the next breadcrumb, but something very consistent and significant. And on the other hand, the hermit also represents your inner truth, so this is something very authentic to you. This is something that is very, very relevant. This is where your faith, your life philosophies, your inner truth reflects in a very clear way on the external reality. So whatever this is, it resonates with you strongly. So you will really feel that this is like something custom tailored for you. And ultimately, this 9 of coins, along with the hermit, well, this also represents that this is something very personal for you, for what you have been seeking, but it can also suggest that other people who have been part in your life story until now will no longer be part in it. This isn't as dramatic as cord cutting, or you abandoning them, or them disappearing from your life. But it is much more like you won't depend on them. They will be at your mercy, in the sense that whenever you feel like giving your energy and attention to them, yes, absolutely. But whenever you want to just live in your shell, then they have no control, no power over you. They can't ask anything of you. The time for your service, the time for your self-sacrifice is long over. So basically, whenever you feel like it, absolutely you help them, everything is okay. But when you feel like you just want to live in your shell, then they have absolutely no choice but to accept it. And if you depended on other people money-wise, well, this is where you will have more than enough. You will be comfortable. This can also represent a psychological expression of comfortable, because the 9 of coins is ultimately the representation of being single, but so proud and so happy because of it. Maybe being single made you feel so very vulnerable, abandoned, left out in the cold in 2019, and this is where it turns to being so happy that you're single and so proud of yourself, self-sufficient, self-nurturing, basically everything. But this isn't for everyone. For some people it's quite the opposite. Someone who is just like you, another hermit kind of person, another single and proud person will find you. And this is where both of you are going to be in this very comfortable shell, where you will live just your stories, and the world around you and everyone else will no longer be an active part of your story, only when you feel like it, only when you allow it, only when you feel extra generous of your time and energy. And what is very important is the 6 of Cups reversed. You know, as I said, that usually this autumn period is a time of crisis, when something impactful happens, and a lot of autumns were quite traumatic in the sense that, yes, they led to something positive, but the ending, the termination of What used to be your normality until then, well, it was very hard for you to process. It was very hard for you to accept because it meant painful goodbyes, or it meant you having to abandon maybe the fruits of your labor, your work, something that you invested a lot of energy, time, and study into. So it was very hard for you. And this time it's gonna be the other way around, when it's gonna be actually joyful, easy. It's gonna produce really uplifting, happy memories. It is gonna feel like the world card, a happy ending. When things finally come together, when fate actually gives you that which you really, really need. Symbolically, again, what I said earlier, the big chunk of bread, not the breadcrumbs. And you will also feel like justice has been done, in the sense that you have done mountains of inner work to heal yourself, to find your inner truth, to be reborn. Yet that actually reflected the opposite way in your external reality, where it was one crisis after another. As I said, the trail of breadcrumbs, and for some of you, this was quite financially as well. Just barely enough to keep you going, just barely enough for the bare necessities. So you felt like very vulnerable, you felt very tested by fate, and this test was ongoing 24/7, every minute, every moment, non-stop. And finally, this is your moment of rest, when you can just shed off all the worries, all the fears, the victim mentality, where the victim mentality wasn't actually fueled by you, it was fueled by external reality. You had no choice but to actually feel like a victim at certain moments. And also you tried your hardest to counter this, to just feel like a survival, as I said, to be proud of everything that you went through, but sometimes it was so hard. So that is ending. This is where you have your world card moment. Saturn basically offering you the fruits of your heart karmic labor. If you have been, for example, like trying to make something work, a project, a business, a desire of yours, implement something into your life, you have been struggling so much, and you were like so very near of totally giving up at more than one moment until now, starting from 2019. And this is where finally you can say, I don't have to give up. Even if it's not working like clockwork, like hitting the jackpot, at least you get to the stage where it's safe, it's grounded, it depends on you, and that means that you can embody this 9 of coins. The work that you put into it is always going to be rewarded one way or another, and so that means financially as well. And for those of you who it's more psychological, not as much material, for example, partnership, you being single for a long time, or you escaping a established bond which did no longer serve you, well, this is where finally you can breathe and you can just live your life again. For some, yes, this might be the birth of a new partnership, but as I said, where that new partner is so very just like you, and that new partner doesn't like other people, it is just you and them, and that is a huge plus for you. Or if it's not a new partnership, it is just you shining, it is just you enjoying the life that you've always wished for, dreamed of, and you're not gonna share it easily with anyone. If you are gonna share it, well, whoever that person is has to really prove themselves to you, because you won't need anyone. So thank you so much for listening. This concludes your reading. I do hope that this was helpful, and wish everyone a blessed and truly prosperous autumn. Until next time, bye for now. Hello everyone who has chosen the third pumpkin. Now before I begin, I would just like to say that this is a very different pile, as in it's definitely not gonna resonate for everyone. Quite frankly, it will maybe only resonate for one person out there. So basically, I'm gonna be totally upright and honest with you. If you have a stable material life, if you have a family, if your life is playing out at least in tolerable conditions, then you want to skip this pile because it's not meant for you. This is meant for someone who is really, really at the edge. Your cards are the Eight of Coins, the Ace of Swords reversed, the Ace of Pentacles reversed, and the Empress. Now, these cards suggest a massive life change, which is gonna be a very, very tough decision that you might make. This might come to you as a really powerful epiphany, as a moment of sudden realization when your soul, one way or another, just tells you something straight to your face, and you're gonna truly embrace that and accept that, and that will lead you to a very radical decision, to a very radical choice. Now, this Eight of Coins ultimately represents your work in every possible means, spiritually, materially, your skills, your talents, your masteries. You are someone who is very, very good at something. You are someone who excels at something. So you have a gift, a talent from birth. And what is very unusual is that I'm not saying you don't have studies or qualifications in this sense, but it comes so easily to you. It flows out of you, like without a shadow of doubt. You are someone who could actually say that you have been doing this in other lifetimes as well, because it's almost like you don't need any empirical knowledge. You can just do it by wanting to do it. It is almost like you can do things regardless if it's artistic, spiritual, or anything, where you really shouldn't be able to do it without a lot of repetition, a lot of study, a lot of work. And I'm not saying that you haven't worked or studied or whatever, but your talent is so great that you really didn't need the studies and the repetition. It is just like an instinct of yours, and it is just almost miraculous. Now the problem is that as good as you are, you're really not appreciated as much as it's normal, as much as it's natural. People out there who are like even half at your level are really successful. They have really good lives. And for you, that was never ever the case. And this might be something that was always weighing heavily on your soul because you don't even know what to make of it. You know, believing that it's only you who think that you're so good and you live in the illusion of this is really not an option, because it's not you who says how good you are. It's the results of your work or whatever that is. So that is almost like undeniable by anyone. So you're basically over this. You have no choice but to actually admit and be honest with yourself that you are good at this, that this is your innate talent, and there's no question about this in any way, shape, or form. But also, which is undeniable in a way, is that your success was blocked almost by fate, because it would be impossible for someone with your talents not to be like a superstar. Of course, in your domain of activity, whatever this special skill and talent is. Now, what's happening this autumn is this epiphany, is this sudden realization that you don't care about that kind of success. You won't allow it any longer to weigh on your soul. You won't even want to attempt comparing your situation to others. This is where the Ace of Swords, true cord cutting, in a sense that you just distance yourself psychologically and emotionally from the world. This is where you will not allow, let's say, the industry to be the standard anymore. And this is where you wanted to do this for a lot of years, But this is where you do it literally, when you just modify something in your unconscious mind, which will kind of make you ignorant, but in the best way possible, to what's out there, to the success of others. You will make a very important decision to do things your way, but in such a radical modus operandi maybe, where it's no turning back, and ultimately this will change your material life. Because this Ace of Coins is reversed, this change is extreme, because there is a lot of risk to this. This is almost like leaving everything behind, everything that gave you a material security, everything that supported your earthly self, your material life, your body, etc. So this is taking a huge risk and following your soul's true calling, because this epiphany, whatever this calling is, will be so very influential that you will have no choice to resist it at all. But at the same time, maybe you're not truly alone in this, because this will come as someone either offering you something or someone showing you a way, a path, a way to do things which you never ever considered before, or it can actually be someone offering their help, but this is where the uncertainty is not your own, but of this person's, and you accept it. You say that, you know what, I'm gonna follow you, I'm gonna go with you, I'm gonna go with however you envisage this, even if there is no security, I'm willing to risk everything. And now let's get a little bit more specific. Now what this can actually translate to physically is like you traveling and going a little bit nomad, where you leave your place behind, your material security. Or you quit your job and decide to do something solo, but you have no guarantees that it's gonna work out or it's gonna provide to you, and you're gonna do it in a moment when it's really, really bad economically in the world out there. So there will be a lot of economic instability. So that's why this might come across as a big, big risk. For others, this is gonna be like moving to a countryside, moving into the heart of nature, maybe to a farm, and embracing that as your new lifestyle. Maybe you abandon the modern and just go back to living in a very natural way, because that might be your epiphany, that is what you always wanted to do. That is your life's and heart's purpose, to just connect with, just to live, just to be. And maybe that someone is who has a farm, who has a place, who says, okay, come live here. So basically this is like a powerful chaotic change, but just be aware that you might not actually execute this autumn. You might just come up with the plan, set the intention, set a future date when you will do this. It is just the decision that's gonna be made and gonna be final in the you will know that this is what you want, this is what you're gonna do, and all paths, like it or not, are gonna lead you there, because you will make it happen. But the Empress represents that whatever this is, as radical as this may seem, it's going to be profoundly healing to you. It's gonna feel like that you are alive for the first time in your life. That everything that you have done until that moment was artificial, was maybe just like a simulation, a scenario, and only this is what's truly real for you. It's like a singularity, finally finding what makes you truly happy and embracing it regardless of the risks. And for some people this might even be like a love story, where not only you will find the purpose but also the partner to go with it. the Empress. And the problem is that not even the cards and not even the karmic forces are able to tell what will actually be the end result. That is like a big, big mystery that only you can discover by living it. And one last expression of this energy, this can also be the case of a female. So if you're a female and you are the kind of person who said, well, I'm never ever gonna have children in my life because that's not me, that's not part of my life, that's not part of my mission, etc. And maybe you're reaching the age as well where afterwards, in a couple of years, it might be really difficult to have a child. And surprise, surprise, either it's a surprise pregnancy which you decide to keep, that will definitely change everything in your life. Or maybe it will be like an inner calling where you just change your mind drastically and will want to be a mom. But as I said, this pile is meant only for a couple of people, so it might not resonate for everyone else. But this might be a big, big surprise that will definitely change your life. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm sorry I can't offer a greater detail with this. The only way you can know what will happen is by living it. So thank you for your time and patience. Until next time, bye for now. Hello everyone who has chosen the 4th pumpkin. Your cards are the 10 of Earth, which is the 10 of coins, the Awakening, which is the Judgment, 4 of Water, which is the 4 of Cups, 7 of Fire, which is the 7 of Wands. Now this might be quite a positive and prosperous and surprising autumn for you, because this 10 of Earth represents something that you have been both planning but also working on in the past 10 months. But even before that, you've always kind of wanted to do this. You always wanted to make this part of your life. But maybe it is in the past 10 months when you really made a lot of effort. You really done things in a very serious manner. And even though you might have put in a lot of effort, strength, work into this, a lot of sacrifice, you've done a lot of things by the book, as meticulously, as seriously as possible, things didn't quite work out the way you expected. Of course, there were a lot of positive things, but there were a lot of setbacks. There were a lot of elements which kind of did not go according to your expectation. And to be totally honest, perhaps the external economic environment was also not very favorable of this, because maybe whatever you try to do is already a little bit tumultuous, or maybe the online world, as in that specific thing being available on the internet, really went against your purposes, not necessarily because of competition, because you're that good that you wouldn't have that much competition, but maybe the excessive advertising and basically this pollution over the internet, which really makes things difficult, not just for you, but for everyone who is very authentic and who takes these projects or whatever this purpose is seriously. For some of you, it might not be really a project, but maybe an investment you wanna make, like buying something which has to do with real estate, not necessarily a home, but maybe a place or a field, or investing in something which in the future has to be like a center where people can come together and do things, or like a holistic center or an artistic center, or maybe just a piece of land where you want to grow stuff, like a garden. And if that is the case, well, it was the banks and the loans and finding the right place, etc., all these things that got in your way. And even though no one says that on this autumn it is grand completion, everything falls into place, yet you will definitely be on the right track, either from a legal perspective, or your plan on how to do it will be refined, going back to the drawing board, but actually coming up with something that truly works, or maybe finding help like some kind of grants, some kind of funding, some kind of things where the government supports you, or a favorable deal, or teaming up with another person or company or whatever who has these same ideas, or finding that which you seek, making the right judgment, making the right call, but that will have to be followed up with work, with paperwork perhaps. But this is the practical side of things, because there is also a spiritual side, the Four of Cups, the Four of Water. Something that you have been guided to do in the past will finally make sense in the present, so this autumn, and you will be able to see the big picture, so your project or your purpose will be an active part of this. But this Four of Cups suggests that you might have tried something different in a more distant past, and it either led to a failure and didn't work out well, or there were like karmic forces stopping you, blocking you in your tracks, and you will finally see why that had to happen, and how the past basically handshakes with your future and gives way for you to execute your plan, because that is the Seven of Fire. That is where things come together and you can start doing it. You can start the work. You can start putting things into place. You might have the funding, the money, or you might have found the place that you want to invest into, or you might have found the right project. You might have found the right funding system, if this makes sense. So this will be time to do the work, and the work is definitely going to be blessed. And perhaps the key element here is not longer having an element of risk here. This is where, from a material perspective, perhaps it won't really matter as much if you fail or not, if it will be as prosperous as you think or not, because you will have some kind of guarantees, you will have some kind of safety. So that element of safety will fuel you, motivate you to just work, to just do things by instinct, to put your passion in it. When there won't be any fear, you will be at your very, very best and inspired self. And also for other people, this Four of Cups can represent the hand of fate, karma. If in the past, especially somewhere along the line of the past 4 years, you might have helped a person, you might have done something for free, you might have done a good deed or made any kind of difference in the life of someone, or maybe even a group of people, or you might have even sacrificed an opportunity you were offered with or had back then for a noble purpose. Well, it is either that person, that group of people, or fate itself reflecting your gesture back at you. So someone might come to your help, something might pop up in your life to give you a lot of support, a lot of help, maybe even money, maybe like an early inheritance, for example, where no one has to pass on. You will just be given support or money or something way in advance. Or if it's like finding either a partner, a business partner, or whatever, that person is going to be so well off or wealthy that supporting you will be like a piece of cake for them, so they won't even care about losses and calculation and stuff like that. They will just say, oh, look, I believe in your purpose and I really like what you want to do. So by all means, go and do whatever you think, however you feel like it, because I'm by your side. So basically for you guys, it will be going back on track. This is where your plans will finally start with the execution phase. Yes, maybe the actual work where you just have to practically, materially, physically do it may start only in the winter, in December, or for some people next year. But a lot of the skeleton kind of work will be done this autumn, as in the schematics, the big plan, the final arrangements, and then this will naturally lead to the proper work, the proper let's execute, let's do it. And at the same time, regardless of what your personal situation is, this is where the cards also show that on the world stage, external reality, world economy, your local community even, certain things will fail. So certain bigger businesses or something like that will collapse. And even though that is a little bit scary, negative, frightening, but for you personally, it will be like something heaven sent, because for whatever you want to do, it will give way, it will free space. You will finally be able to matter more than if you would have been eclipsed or shadowed by whatever is going to be collapsing. So this is like the bad karma playing out externally. So like an economic earthquake demolishing a lot of bigger businesses out there will be for you personally like a paradise, because that will be exactly what you'll need to be a little bit more relevant, or the way you want to do things, regardless if it's a project, business, investment, etc. It just gives you the chance to actually do it, to work, to be relevant. Or if it's like a real estate thing, maybe the prices in a moment are gonna drop so very, very low that you will say, this is my once in a lifetime opportunity to buy something extremely expensive, like piece of land or whatever, lower than half price. So, just be on the lookout, because the global bad is gonna turn to your advantage this autumn. And this even goes for those people who invested in cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. If that is your business, you will also have moments when you can truly harvest, when something crashing is gonna make your investment rise. So this is what the cards have to say for you. Thank you so much for listening. Wish you a blessed and prosperous autumn. Well, this concludes today's pick a card reading. Thank you everyone so much for listening. If you enjoyed this reading, if you found it useful, you can support my channel and make sure that I'll be able to create more readings like this one in the future by donating on the PayPal link in the description below. Thank you once again. Wish everyone a truly blessed and prosperous autumn. Until next time, bye for now.